Yada Brahmaskitum Boga Nase Kor Bhagavat Param. Nishdatam absorbed Yogamaya Su in temporary enjoyment. Munim, who is equal to a saint. Svayambhuvam, Svayambhuva. Manum, Manu, Yat, from which Abrahma Sayitum, to cause to deviate. Boga, material enjoyments. Na, not. Seku, were able. Bhagavat Param, who was a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, Swayambhuva Manu was a saintly king. This is probably too loud. Anyway, was a saintly king. Although absorbed in material happiness, he was not dragged to the lowest grade of life. Don't make it too low because I don't want to think like Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Leave it at that point. Thus, Svayambhuva Manu was a saintly king. Although absorbed in material happiness, he was not dragged to the lowest grade of life, for he always enjoyed his material happiness in a Krishna-conscious atmosphere. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The kingly happiness and material enjoyment generally drags one to the lowest grade of life, namely degradation to animal life because of unrestricted sense enjoyment. But Svayambhuva Manu was considered as good as a saintly sage because the atmosphere created in his kingdom and home was completely Krishna conscious. The case is similar with the conditioned souls in general. They have come into this material life for sense gratification. But if they are able to create a Krishna-conscious atmosphere as depicted here, or as prescribed in revealed scriptures, by temple worship and household deity worship, then in spite of their material enjoyment, they can make advancement in pure Krishna consciousness without a doubt. At the present moment, modern civilization is too much attached to the material way of life or sense gratification. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement can give the people in general the best opportunity to utilize their human life in the midst of material enjoyment. Krishna consciousness does not stop them in their propensity for material enjoyment, but simply regulates their habits in the life of sense enjoyment. In spite of their enjoying the material advantages, they can be liberated in this very life by practicing Krishna consciousness by the simple method of chanting the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnana Shalakaya Shakshurlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganam Raganatam Vitam Dam Sajivam Sadvedam Savadutam Vijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakavitam Sja Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Sarito Pangur Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Dibyad Brindaranya Kalpa Jumada Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prastalabi Savyamano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Bamsi Bhatatitasti Taha Karshan Venu Svanar Gopir Gopinata Sriyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyas cha Kripasindubyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nishnatam Yogamaya Su Munim Svayam Bhuvam Manum Yad Abramas Sayitum Boga Nasekor Bhagavat Param. Thus, Swayambhuvamanu was a saintly king, though absorbed in material happiness. He was not dragged to the lowest grade of life, for he always enjoyed his material happiness in a Krishna-conscious atmosphere. So, this material world is described as a place where there is danger at every step. For the devotee or for the pure spirit soul, we see how Lord Chaitanya prays, Ayi Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram Bhatitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddho. Somehow or other I have fallen into this ocean of repeated birth and death. Kindly pick me up from this ocean of death and reinstate me, reinstate me again as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. So this material world is a place of sense enjoyment, which is a facility for conscious choice of the living entity. As we're marginal, we always have the free will to decide to not serve Krishna, but to try to, in a sense, take the position of Krishna as the enjoyer. So this material world is set up to facilitate that Maya, that which is not, illusion. So if you're going through like the spook house or the haunted house, in like a boat at the amusement park, where all these ghosts and hobgoblins are coming out, and they got strobe lights and all kinds of crazy stuff to freak you out at every turn, at every step. That's not that that's a very frightful and fearful situation. Of course, people in their macabre idea, they set up such things for so-called enjoyment. I remember a couple of years ago with Mahavishnu Maharaj and Vishnu John Harinam Ruchi, we went into the Coney Island amusement, with a full Harinam, and they had all these like kind of spook houses, and we didn't pay money to go in, but we could see the whole setup and everything, and it's like, it's so funny, but in reality, this material world is a pretty spooky kind of place, because there's always some type of, if you don't have transcendental knowledge, if you're not in one place in the Bhāgavatam, thus being resolute in purpose and fixed in transcendental knowledge, one should walk this world resolute in one's purpose and determination. And there's a saying that the best defense is what? A stronger offense. One disciple to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Maya is so strong, and and what is Prabhupada's response? Your purpose is weak. And we don't have to, I don't want to have this right next to my mouth, that's the problem. Hare Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna. But then we have this kind of, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We have a lot of ground to cover, so we have to go fast sometimes. What was I just saying? Speak loud so I can hear. And then after that, I was... So Prabhupada, his whole activity in life was a burning desire to save as many fallen conditioned souls as possible. Obeisances to you, O spiritual master, O servant of Saraswati Goswami. You were so kindly and determinedly, so intensely teaching, preaching, spreading, delineating the message, the words, the Vani, the Gauravani of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and thus delivering these Western countries, which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. And by that service and surrender to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has become an ocean of transcendental mercy. So the ocean overwhelms like a tsunami. If we have like a whole army and like a whole, all types of equipment for warfare on the land, and the ocean comes like a 300-foot or taller tsunami, who's going to win? That's how great It's just a small indication of how great Srila Prabhupada is as the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if we can aspire to become an insignificant servant at the feet of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, dedicating our everything, body, mind, words, all our desires to please Him, then there's no question of danger at every step. Then, as Lord Brahma describes in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto, the ocean of material existence shrinks down to, and it's interesting how it's the water in a hoof print of a calf. Why not, just like 30, what's a millimeter? Centimeter? What is like a water contained in metric, Huh? Milliliter. It says instead of that, it says a hoof print of a calf. Where would we find hoof prints of calves? Of Goloka Vrindavan. And who is taking care of those calves? That's right. That's where you'll find yourself by taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we're hearing of the glories of Svayambhuva Manu in the last few verses. Human society is meant to create a spiritual atmosphere by spreading the spirit of Krishna consciousness. So we can't really spread the Krishna consciousness movement if we just stay within our own orbit. We have to go out and expand the orbit. Unless we are Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he gave me that piece of wood from his Bhajan Kutir. He had tried his level best throughout his life, and he was unhappy towards the end of his life about the status quo. We don't have time to get into it. And he was ordered directly by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my dear, I forget the exact Sanskrit word, he called him like very exalted pure devotee. You simply go to the Chatak Parvat area where I personally buried my beloved Haridas, and you simply chant the holy name for the rest of your life, and by this chanting you'll deliver the entire universe. So Srila Prabhupada has affirmed that, you see a video of Prabhupada's June 1975 visit to Los Angeles. Vishnu John is saying, the Prabhupada, Vishnu John Swami, the Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's so powerful that he can deliver the entire universe. And yes, Bhaktivinoda Thakur he can do, but he's very, very kind. He left some service for us to do. And Prabhupada, like he affirmed in different places that there was like one extraordinary kirtan going on during the Mayapur festival. And at that time it was just a lotus building downstairs. And Prabhupada said to his leading devotees, if you go on having kirtan like that, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur will personally come from the spiritual world and bring you all back home, back to Godhead. So that level of power is there in the Paramahamsa, actual Paramahamsa. So Prabhupada teaches we should never think ourselves great devotees. We shouldn't think, oh, now I'm a Paramahamsa, and I should get worshipped, I should get respect. We should always keep ourselves in the servant position. We should never think ourselves as great devotees. We should simply aspire to become instrumental. Like here, it's not an instrument, it's a bottle of water. I guess this is an instrument. can I get a pliers or a wire clipper here and make a demonstration? No, simply become instrumental in the hands of the previous Acharyas. Only then can we actually do something for who? Suffering humanity. That's the definition of a pure devotee. It's always thinking of the plight of the fallen conditioned souls, their suffering in material existence. So we're sitting at Harinam, and we're not suffering. We're having the time of our life. You people are crazy. This is very suffering to be in such a condition of perception and so-called mind, because they are gliding to the lowest position. Just see how terrible is the forgetfulness of Krishna, that in their whole life, arrangement is made that they will have absolutely no contact with Krishna, no udipan, no stimulation anywhere, anyhow, to even have even an inkling of a minuscule remembrance of Krishna, even for a split second. And they come in contact with a party of devotees performing Harinam Sankirtan, and they're like, it's a nuisance, what are you doing? This is just like another crazy New York City bunch of weirdos doing something. I don't have time for this. And that might be it for their entire life. And the opportunity that we have is to take shelter of Krishna, to turn to Krishna at every moment of our day and for every moment of our life, by the mercy of the pure devotee who creates the temple environment, creates the association of devotees. Pita Das, who was one of the brahmacharis, or brand new young men that Tamal Krishna Maharaj brought to Chicago and bowed down with all completely shaved up in saffron, and in those days, as soon as you joined, you were put in saffron, by the way, and a red rose. And at that time, Prabhupada was getting on Tamal Krishna Maharaj's case. I need you to come back to be the GBC for India. We have so many problems there, and you're the only man can do it. And Tamal Krishna, but Prabhupada, I'm preaching. What is this preaching? And then as he brought in each of these young men, Prabhupada just started smiling, and at the end, all 20, he was just like beaming and said, yes, this is preaching. You stay here. He was able to give up Tamal Krishna Maharaj as the GBC for India, that he could stay and do this preaching. So Pita was one of these devotees, and he, actually when he was introduced to Prabhupada, his name was Glenn, and Prabhupada 3 times said, Glenn, just looking at him very lovingly. So he was there for the last 2 weeks of Prabhupada's presence. I forget why I brought this up. So Prabhupada was remarking, at the time of my spiritual master's departure, he was disgusted because he said, Peter's saying that, they did not follow his instructions, and he was very unhappy with his disciples. But actually, I am very happy with all of you, and I like your association. And Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji came in, and Prabhupada said, just see Babaji Maharaj, how much they love me, how attentive they are to me, how every word they want to understand what I'm saying, how they simply want to please me. See how advanced they are. And Peter does, advanced? I'm not advanced. I'm just, I have all these things in my mind and this and that. And he's thinking about this for so many years. And he said, this is actual advancement, to be completely allegiant to the pure devotee spiritual master. No matter what your condition of life, somebody could say qualification, disqualification, proportionate, this and that. What is your position now, perceivable? The spiritual master can see your potential, just like a parent. He can understand what his children can come. In fact, that is the actual qualification of a real parent, the children, that they want their son or daughter to get more opportunity and to become a better man or woman than themselves. You don't see that much these days. But that's natural instinct. And that's there in the actual Father, the spiritual master, the eternal Father. When Sasrup Maharaj was rejected by his parents, his mother was an Irish Roman Catholic, and as long as you're with those people, we don't want anything to do with you. That was in 1966, and again, 20 or 25 years later, shortly before she passed away, he tried to contact his mother, and after some meaningless small talk, he mentioned how he's traveling around the world as a leader of the Hare Krishna movement, and the exact same words. As long as you're with those people, we don't want anything to do with you. So in 1966, Sasrup Maharaj reported that to Prabhupada, and Sasrup Maharaj, he said it, and Prabhupada confirmed it, that actually, I'm your real father. I'm your eternal father. We cannot stop the miseries of the material atmosphere, but Krishna consciousness is the antiseptic method to protect us from being affected by the miseries of material existence. For a Krishna conscious person, both living in heaven and living in hell are equal. How that's unbelievable. Because whatever is the facility or the place or the time or the circumstance to serve the spiritual master, what to speak of heaven, it is Vaikuntha, it is Goloka Vrindavan. Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita, the pure devotee can create the Krishna conscious atmosphere anywhere. How? By his pure and empowered preaching. Prabhupada is speaking actually in 94 Bowery upstairs in the 4th floor loft. He's saying, you can ask Mr. Paul, who later went crazy, the 18-year-old on LSD, that all day I'm engaged, something reading, something writing, everything for Krishna. I'm writing. Sometimes I go to the market, Chinatown, Hester Street, and I purchase, and I cook for Krishna. And that way I'm fully engaged. So long purport yesterday, describing temple worship and also the proper activities of the householder. And Krishna is so kind and merciful that he comes as the deity. Actually, the Saint Peter Das, he was describing, that Prabhupada said in those last weeks, that to serve the deity directly is the highest position that you can have in this material world, in this material body. Because these same exact activities that you're doing now, you will do in Goloka Vrindavan. There's a statement by Prabhupada in the prayers of various demigods and exalted personalities to Lord Vishnu appeared in the Daksha Yagna in the 4th canto after everybody got their mind right and put everything back in order and stopped all their feuding and fighting like the Hatfields and the McCoys. Anyway, that one who is directly and very carefully arranging for the decoration of the deities, Radha and Krishna, becomes minutely aware of all the intricacies of the Vedas. So we should always keep company with devotees. Devotees, by definition, are following the instructions of Krishna and Krishna's representative, and by that, the transcendental atmosphere is sure and firm in that association, and there's very little opportunity for us to fall down, deviate, or be affected by that which is danger at every step, this material world. So today, the 5th day of the month of Jesta, waning moon of the month of Jesta, is a very glorious day. It is marked as the disappearance day of Sri Ramananda Roy. Sri Ramananda Roy was one of the most confidential associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He, along with Swarup Damodar Goswami, especially, were the two chosen confidants that Lord Chaitanya had around him when he was experiencing the topmost feelings of separation from Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Indeed, the Antya Leela, particularly the last chapters, the last, say, 30 or 25% of the Antya Leela, you see Lord Chaitanya was expressing very deep and unfathomable transcendental feelings in separation, and Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy would recite and or speak select and appropriate verses that would augment and help Lord Chaitanya in his mood. There's one place Lord Chaitanya refers to Ramananda Roy in one place, saying, "Alas, go on speaking, Rama Roy," like that. Roy Ramananda, Rama Roy, Ramananda Roy. So it's understood that this Ramananda Roy was an incarnation, we say who were the two chief associates of Srimati Radharani. I'll give you a hint. Has anyone ever been to the Krishna Bharam Mandir in Vrindavan? Or to Radha Desh in Belgium? Comes to my mind. Or Juhu Beach in Bombay. Ooh. Tulsi, could you enlighten me? I have no idea. What is the answer? That's right. Lalita and Vishaka. Lalita, Vishaka, Adi, Saki, what is that? Saki Brinda, Seva, I forget exactly, the Nartam Das Thakur's. Anyway, Lalita, Vishaka, Adi, Saki, Atta Saki Brinda. Yeah. Anyway, there are two chief attendants. So it's understood that Ramananda Roy is incarnation of Vishaka. And in the chapter, very important chapter 8, Madhya Leela, chapter 8, talks between the Lord and Ramananda Roy, also referred to as Ramananda Samvad. We see actually the conversion of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was a staunch Mayavadi, and then he's converted by Lord Chaitanya, and then he remembered, oh, this Ramananda Roy, he's the most exalted personality, because previously he thought he was just some sentimentalist, his understanding of Krishna, Radha and Krishna, he minimized it, didn't understand it. So Lord Chaitanya is about to embark on his tour of South India, and he very much implored Lord Chaitanya, you must meet this Ramananda Roy, a very exalted personality. So actually Lord Chaitanya, it's described as South Indian tour. He was absorbed in such ecstasy that he didn't know where he was going or what was happening. Actually, no, that was going to Vrindavan first, just after taking sannyas, and he was misled by a white lie. The northern bank of the Ganges, it was told him, oh, this is the Yamuna, which is kind of false, but also true, because the Yamuna flows into the Ganges from the northwest, And so you could say, well, the northern bank of the Ganges, as it's flowing east to the Bay of Bengal, well, it's also the Yamuna also, but that just simply, they led Lord Chaitanya to the house of Advaitacharya at Shantipur. So, but anyway, so Lord Chaitanya put that on his itinerary, on his checklist, that I must meet this Ramananda Roy. So Ramananda Roy was the governor of Madras. He was in a very exalted material position. He even had, just simply to take a bath, he had a retinue of ministers, soldiers, and Brahmins just to go to the river and take a bath. And Lord Chaitanya is there with just his assistant, Krishna Das, and their ecstatic love for each other awakens. And Prabhupada says that Lord Chaitanya is in the mood of Radharani and also Krishna simultaneously, and Ramananda Roy is Vishaka. Naturally, there was an awakening of ecstatic love between them. And ecstatic love is so great and so exalted and intense that, what is that saying? It takes one to know one. One cannot understand who is a pure devotee unless one happens to be a pure devotee oneself. So, all the ritualistic Brahmins said, what is this? This sannyasi is embracing the governor? They couldn't understand it. And they start to think bad thoughts and make critical thinking. So they have to, they very, with great endeavor, they restrain their ecstatic emotions. That's another example of an actual pure devotee. They're not displaying their love for Krishna cheaply. Mukunda Maharaj writes in his book, Miracle at 26 Second Avenue, how, this was in San Francisco, that a group of Bengali kirtan professionals, Sahajis, came, and they were going to play at one of the hippie theaters, the Straight Theater or the Fillmore East, or no, not Fillmore West, one of those places. And they were invited. Here's free tickets. You can come to the performance. And at the exact right time, when the kirtan reached the crescendo, the leader just like seemingly fainted on the ground, and he fell on the ground and like rolling on the ground, and like foam, and like whatever's coming out of his mouth, and just slowly just like making these sounds, and then he just like in a seeming trance, it's just on the ground. And so Mukunda Maharaj, Mukunda Prabhu at the time, he relates to Prabhupada, what is this? And Prabhupada said, did you kick on his face with boots? This is just complete nonsense. So, Srila Prabhupada, in his preaching, at one time he was experiencing something very ecstatic in his relationship with Krishna, and it seemingly stopped him and prevented him from being able to continue. But devotees there, I forget the devotee giving this memory, said that Prabhupada like just physically suppressed these feelings. He just stopped them with all his might and just went on in his service to his spiritual master, which was preaching the philosophy to his audience according to the time, place, and circumstance. In the Mayapur festival one year, Prabhupada went into a trance of ecstasy and stopped speaking, and the devotees didn't know what to do. And after maybe a minute or two, one of the leaders started a kirtan, and then there was a controversy. We should have stayed silent and wait for Prabhupada, and they had a big argument. And then later in the day, it was brought to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, this morning, this, that, the other thing, and some said we should have waited for you. And Prabhupada was very, very shy about it. He said, I don't do that very often. He said, yes, chanting Hare Krishna. He didn't minimize it. They were having a big fight about it, but he said, no, you're chanting Hare Krishna, that's good. So, this is such an important meeting, the meeting of Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy. And Lord Chaitanya ultimately wanted Ramananda Roy progressively to reveal higher and higher truths and platforms of Krishna consciousness, that Srila Prabhupada wanted this wonderful knowledge to be revealed, just like he couldn't wait to go methodically through the entire Srimad Bhāgavatam to ultimately come to the 10th canto. Prabhupada was racing against time. So he stopped his activities of Srimad Bhāgavatam in 1969 and gave us the Krishna book. So similarly, in 1967, he gave us teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which has Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, this Lord Ramananda Roy, and what is the other important philosophical? The conversion of the Mayavadis, Prakashananda. So, and actually in the 1950s, Prabhupada did a more simplified, but in terms of writing and size, but a very exalted, and it's been published as a book called In Search of the Ultimate Goal of Life. So Prabhupada rendered this 3 different times. So of course here this is the most full, because this is direct rendering of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So the beginning of questions and answers. Ramananda Roy, my dear Lord, you have come to correct me, a fallen soul. My mind is not yet purified simply by seeing you. Please stay for 5 or 7 days and kindly cleanse my polluted mind. After that much time, my mind will certainly be pure. This is at the beginning. And at the end, it was Ramananda Roy, Lord Chaitanya, Ramananda Roy again begged him to stay for a few days more. And Lord Chaitanya, a few days more, for the rest of my life could not bear your separation. Therefore I order you to come to Jagannath Puri and stay with me, and we will pass our time in joy discussing pastimes of Krishna. Although neither could tolerate each other's separation, that's one of the questions later asked, of all types of misery and unhappiness, what is the greatest? Separation from the Lord's devotee. Again, this material world is a desert of sense enjoyment. If one is thrown into a mine of salt, everywhere you go is salt. So everywhere we go is sense enjoyment. Everyone is more or less cutting their own throat. It's an insane asylum. How can one be happy in such a place? In association of devotee. So when we're separated from the devotee, either by space, that's one thing, but when they leave the planet, it creates such a burning, intense feeling of separation, but it's spiritual, that more or less everything that we have, body, mind, and intellect, all our desires and thoughts are just fixed supernaturally on achieving that devotee's association again. And how that is done? By making the order or the desire of that pure devotee 110% your everything. And Prabhupada says in one place that transcendental feelings of separation are such that they have a unique quality that they pacify the heart. Because such feelings of separation guarantee ultimate reunion. But along the way, until that ultimate reunion, there are so many encouragements. One devotee who had very brief association with Srila Prabhupada, as Prabhupada's duly initiated first and second initiated disciple, said that subsequently after Srila Prabhupada's departure, Srila Prabhupada appeared to me in dream and in various ways to greatly encourage me in my advancement in my spiritual life. So they met and embraced, and they began to discuss Krishna in a secluded place. Rahastani, in a secluded place, is very significant. Talks about Krishna and his pastimes, especially his pastimes of Vrindavan, and his dealings with the gopis are all very confidential. They're not subject matter for public discussion because those who have no understanding of the transcendental nature of Krishna's pastimes always commit great offenses, thinking Krishna to be an ordinary human being and the gopis ordinary girls. Following the principle of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who never discussed the dealings between Krishna and the gopis publicly, devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement are enjoined. What does Bhakti Miriam say about enjoined? The order. Let's get the full juice here. What text am I reading? I'm going to be jumping around. This is 56.
To enjoin is to instruct or urge someone to do something.
That's it?
Yes.
Nothing more like an order?
Instruct or urge.
Okay.
Prescribe is a synonym.
So not in public. For the general public, what is the most effective method to awaken Krishna consciousness?
Or in the law, it's saying to prohibit someone from performing a particular action by issuing an injunction.
An injunction. It's a legal matter from now on. So, fill in the blank, please. Yeah, we're going to have Ram Roy as the teacher of the Bhakti Shastri course here. Yeah. Okay. For the general public, what is the most effective method to awaken Krishna consciousness? I'll give you a hint. It's the farthest thing from your mind, the last thing you would possibly think of. Sankirtan. Sankirtan is the most effective method to awaken Krishna consciousness. If possible, one should discuss the principles of Bhagavad Gita. If possible, if their mind is a little bit open. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed this principle very strictly and discussed the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita with learned scholars like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Prakashananda Saraswati. However, he taught the principles of the Bhakti cult to students like Sanatana and Rupa Goswami, and he discussed with Sri Ramananda Roy the topmost dealings between Krishna and the gopis. For the general public, he performed Sankirtan very vigorously. So, Sankirtan vigorously means to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, chanting the intimate names of Radha and Krishna. That's more or less the same thing as discussing their intimate dealings. So those who are in an immature stage of devotional and spiritual development, we're still very much on the bodily platform of life and associating between boys and girls, young men and women is predominant enjoyment that they're interested in, they shouldn't be chanting the names of the divine couple, for some type of spiritual, um, for some type of recognition or musical or, artistic presentation. That is Sahajiism. And if we do that, well, because we're supposed to be representing His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, the actual teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then people will take it, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, if I did not act or show the way to act properly, everyone will follow my path, thus these worlds would be put to ruination. Peter Das also, he said this, that I am the only son of my spiritual master. All of my godbrothers are like daughters. Daughter, I inherited the business, and the daughters stay home. And they said, because my godbrothers did not follow the order of my spiritual master. But then he went on to say, but still, they are the best representatives of Lord Chaitanya on this planet after me. We must also follow these principles in preaching Krishna consciousness all over the world. For the pure devotee, chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is as good, if not better, than chanting the intimate names of the divine couple. So Lord Chaitanya ordered Ramananda Roy to recite a verse from the real scriptures concerning the ultimate goal of life. And Ramananda Roy replied, this is the beginning, that if one executes the prescribed duties of his social custom, he awakens his original Krishna consciousness. It's very elaborate purport, it's very nice. We don't have time, but we'll just try our level best to touch a drop of water at the ocean shore. Varnashrama Facharvatra Purushena Parapuman Vishnu Radite Parnta Nanyatato Shakaranam. It's from the Vishnu Purana. Lord Vishnu is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the systems of Varna and Ashram. There is no other way to satisfy the Lord. One must be situated in the institution of the four Varnas and Ashrams. The Lord replied, that is external. You had better tell me some other means. Ramananda Roy replied, to offer the results of one's activities to Krishna is the essence of all perfection. Yad karoshi yadashni, yadashnashti, yad shahoshi jadashi yad. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, and all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. Please proceed, this is also external, and speak further in this matter. To give up one's occupational duties in the Varnashram is the essence of perfection. After hearing Ramananda Roy speak in this way, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, go ahead and say something more. Ramananda Roy then replied, devotional service mixed with empiric knowledge is the essence of perfection. After hearing this, the Lord, as usual, rejected it, considering it to be external devotional service. Speak further. Pure devotional service without any touch of speculative knowledge is the essence of perfection. Then he, quoting Lord Brahma's verse, yes, my dear Lord, those devotees who have thrown away the impersonal conception of the absolute truth and have therefore abandoned discussing empiric philosophical truth should hear from self-realized devotees about your holy name, form, pastimes, and qualities. You should be completely follow the principles of devotional service and remain free from illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, and animal slaughter. Surrendering themselves fully with body, minds, and word, they can live in any ashram or social status. Indeed, you are conquered by such persons, although you are always unconquerable. At this point, Lord Chaitanya replied, "This is all right, but still you can speak more on the subject. Ecstatic love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the essence of all perfection." This is Rupa Goswami made his very wonderful book called Padyavali, which means collection of prayers. And this verse is spoken directly by Ramananda Roy. It's attributed to him. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be had even by pious activity in hundreds and thousands of lives. It can be attained only by paying one price. That is intense greed to obtain it. If it is available somewhere, one must purchase it without delay. Do it today. Don't delay. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Hearing up to the point of spontaneous love, the Lord said, "This is all right, but if you know more, please tell me." In reply, Ramananda Roy said, "Spontaneous loving service in servitude, as exchanged by master and the servant, is the highest perfection." So now we've gone up, and we're going to go up the rasa ladder. By serving you constantly, one is freed from all material desires and is completely pacified. When shall we engage in your permanent eternal servant? When shall we engage as your permanent eternal servant and always feel joyful to have such a perfect master, Jamunacharya? Hearing this, the Lord again requested him to go a step further. Loving service to Krishna rendered in fraternity is the highest perfection. As long as loving service is rendered to the Lord in the master-servant relationship, there is some fear, for the servant is always afraid of the master despite the intimacy of self-interest. In this stage, the servant is always afraid of the master and respectful of him. When a devotee is further advanced, he has nothing to fear. He considers the Lord and himself on an equal level. At such a time, the devotee is fully convinced that Lord Krishna is a friend and cannot at all be dissatisfied. In the fourth canto, in describing the great devotee king Malayadvaj, who became the husband of King Puranjana, who became, not transgender, a woman, Vidarbhi, in his next life. That with his devotional, with his kingly flag, devotional flag unfurled, he conquered all opposing enemies to bhakti, to devotional service. And it's described there that of the 9 processes of devotional service, the neophyte must secure the first 7, and when they become very advanced, then they secure the final 2, which is sakyam, friendship, and ultimately atmanivedanam. The gopis of Vrindavan are understood to be the greatest exemplars of atmanivedanam. Friend cannot at all be dissatisfied. This understanding is called vishramba, that is devoid of a respectful attitude. When this attitude is chosen, it becomes sakya prema, or love of Godhead in friendship. On this stage, there is developed consciousness of equality between the Lord and the devotee. Krita punya punja, how these coward boys, after accumulating heaps and heaps of pious activities, are now playing with the Lord in friendship as coward boys. This statement is very good, but please proceed even further. Ramananda Roy then replied, loving service to the Lord in the parental relationship is the highest perfectional stage. And Prabhupada's analyzing, it's very, very nice. The stage of loving service to the Lord in parental affection is an advanced stage of love and fraternity. In the fraternal relationship, there is a sense of equality. But when that sense of equality is advanced in affection, one attains the platform of parental love. O Brahman, what pious activities did Nanda Maharaj perform by which he received Krishna as his son, and what pious activities did Mother Yashoda perform that made the absolute supreme personality of Godhead Krishna call her mother and suck her breasts? Favor Mother Yashoda obtained from Sri Krishna, the bestower of liberation, was never attained even by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, nor even by the goddess of fortune, who always remains on the chest of the Lord, Vishnu. Your statements are certainly getting better and better, one after the other, but surpassing all of them is another transcendental mellow, and you can speak of that as the most sublime. Ramananda Roy then replied, conjugal attachment for Krishna is the topmost position in love of Godhead. In general, love of Godhead is devoid of the intimacy of ownership. In the case of love and servitude, there is a want of confidence. There is a want of increased affection in the fraternal relationship, but when this affection increases in the parental relationship, there is nonetheless a want of complete freedom. However, when one becomes a conjugal lover of Krishna, everything lacking in the other relationship is completely manifest. Love of Godhead lacks nothing in the conjugal stage. The summary of this verse is that parental love of Godhead is certainly higher than fraternal love, and that conjugal love is higher yet. It was when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested Ramananda Roy to go further that he came to the point of the conjugal relationship, which is the highest perfectional stage of transcendental love. And Uddhava is speaking, when Lord Sri Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Rasa Leela, the gopis were embraced by the arms of the Lord. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or the other consorts in the spiritual world. Indeed, never was such a thing even imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets, whose bodily luster and aroma resembles the lotus flower. And what to speak of worldly women who are very beautiful according to the material estimation. There are various means and processes by which one may attain the favor of Lord Krishna. All of these transcendental processes will be studied from the viewpoint of comparative importance. It is true that whatever relationship a particular devotee has with the Lord is the best for him. Still, when we study all the different methods from a neutral position, we can understand that there are higher and lower degrees of love. There's an important chapter about the danger of sahajiyism and mental speculation. None of these can be compared to a person who is purely engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness. Another clue. Every Krishna-conscious person is constantly endeavoring to utilize different transcendental devices in the service of the Lord. Such a devotee renounces all material enjoyment and completely dedicates himself to the service of his spiritual master and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He may be a perfect celibate, a restrained householder, a regulated vanaprastha, or a tridandi sannyasi in a renounced order. It doesn't matter. The pseudo-transcendentalists and the pure devotees cannot be compared, nor can one argue that a person can invent his own method of way of worship. The purport in presenting this verse necessitates explaining the comparative positions of the transcendental mellows. All these rasas, mellows, are situated on the transcendental platform. Pure devotees take shelter of one of them and thus progress in spiritual life. Actually, one can take shelter of such spiritual mellows only when one is completely uncontaminated by material enjoyment, material attachment. When one is completely free, the feelings of the transcendental mellows are awakened in the heart of the devotee. That is Svarup Siddhi, the perfection of one's eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord. These mellows cannot be compared to the feelings one derives from demigod worship. Krishna is one, but the demigods are different. The analysis of different types of love of Godhead has been made by expert acharyas who know all about devotional service on the transcendental platform. Unfortunately, inexperienced and unauthorized persons in the mundane world, not understanding the transcendental position of pure love, try to find some material fault in the transcendental process. This is simply impudence on the part of spiritually inexperienced people. Such fault-finding is symptomatic of unfortunate mundane wranglers. increasing love is experienced in various tastes, one above another. But that love, which has the highest taste in the gradual succession of desires, manifests itself in the form of conjugal love. There is a gradual order of improvement in transcendental mellows from the initial ones to the latter ones. In each subsequent mellow, the qualities of the previous mellows are present, counting from 2, then 3, up to the point of 5 complete qualities. As the qualities increase, so the taste also increases in each and every mellow. Therefore, the qualities found in Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, and Vatsalya are all manifest in conjugal love, Madhurya Ras. Lord Chaitanya asks Ramananda Roy to describe the qualities of Krishna and Radharani respectively, and ultimately describe how they enjoy each other's love and company. A very exalted description. It was in this prompting that Ramananda Roy, in his great humility, expressed his external position in the Varnashram system, and Lord Chaitanya said, Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi Sutra Kani 9, very important verse, 128. Say Krishna Tattva Veta, say Guru Hoy, whether one is a Brahmin, a sannyasi, or a Sudra, regardless of what he is, he can become a spiritual master if he knows the science of Krishna. So after hearing all of this is verse 233, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Ramananda Roy, and both of them, clasping one another's shoulders, began to cry. The entire night was passed in this way, in ecstatic love of Godhead. And then ultimately, Ramananda Roy was shown by Lord Chaitanya that he is Radha and Krishna combined, that nothing can remain hidden from you, therefore only you can see like this, and don't reveal this to anyone else. So they met in a secluded place, and discussing the pastimes of Krishna by the question and answer process. The Lord asked the questions, and Ramananda Roy gave the answers. Of all types of education, which is the most important? There is no education that is important other than the transcendental devotional service of Krishna. So we should keep this in mind, especially if we're going to take university education and beyond. We shouldn't fall into the trap of becoming puffed up, thinking that we're something special more than others who haven't done that. Devotional service has nothing to do with mundane education. Out of all glorious activities, which is the most glorious? The person who is reputed to be a devotee of Lord Krishna enjoys the utmost fame and glory. Of the many capitalists who possess great riches, who is the topmost? He who is richest in love for Radha and Krishna is the greatest capitalist. Of all kinds of distress, dukkha madhye kon dukkha hai gunutara, Krishna bhakti viraha vina dukkha nahi deki par. What is the most painful? Apart from separation from the devotee of Krishna, I know of no unbearable unhappiness. Bhāgavatam 1.5.44, of all kinds of desirable things experienced in the life of a living entity, association with the devotees of the Lord is the highest. When we are separated from a devotee, even for a moment, we cannot enjoy happiness. And so powerful is devotees' association that it is said that even 1/11th of a second association with a pure devotee is enough to ensure one's complete perfection. So therefore, we go out and all those people, rolling past the Harinam with whatever the heck they're thinking in their head, not paying it any attention. That's more than an 11th of a second. For some of them, that might even end up being 11 seconds. That is enough to ensure their complete perfection. They're not going to surrender. They're not going to understand or agree right on the spot. But we've planted a very powerful, indestructible seed, the Bhakti Lata Bij, which will grow. And especially if we're there regularly and they see us again and again and again and again and again. Out of all liberated persons, who should be accepted as the greatest? He who has love for Krishna has attained the topmost liberation. Among many songs, which song is considered the actual religion of the living entity? That song describing the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna is superior to all other things. Non-devotees are strictly prohibited from participating in songs celebrating the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Unless one is a devotee, it is very dangerous to hear the songs about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna that were written by Jayadev Goswami, Chandidas, and other exalted devotees. Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison, but one should not imitate this. One must first become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. Only then can one enjoy hearing the songs of Jayadev and relish transcendental bliss. If one simply imitates the activities of Lord Shiva and drink poison, one will certainly meet with death. These talks are meant for advanced devotees only, those who are on the mundane platform and who studied these talks in order to put forward some thesis for a PhD. Haribol Yugla Kishore, have a nice flight. Give our regards to the devotees there, and we'll see you next time. Hare Krishna. They will not be understand them. Atmanavadana, who does the 26 Second Avenue program, he was taking a course all about, Radha and Krishna, some type of mundane Hindu professor in Brown University, which is an Ivy League school in Providence, Rhode Island. And I remember he brought these books and to the Boston Temple where I was. This is in the early 90s, and he reminded me of this. I just said, what kind of, this is just nonsense, And he remembered that he was very bored in the course, and it made no sense to him, and he was like, well, what is this? It's just like Hindu mythology or something, and they will not be able to understand them. Instead, these conversations will have a poisonous effect. Out of all auspicious and beneficial activities, which is the best for the living entity? The only auspicious activity is association with devotees of Krishna. 11th canto. We are asking the most perfect welfare activity from you. I think that in this material world, association with devotees, even if it be for a moment, is the greatest treasure house of mankind. So going out and giving the association of Srila Prabhupada, who we are trying to represent, this is the greatest act of charity. What should all living entities constantly remember? The chief object of remembrance is always the holy name of the Lord, his qualities and pastimes. Out of many types of meditation, which is required for all living entities, the chief duty of every living entity is to meditate upon the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Where should the living entity live, abandoning all other places? The holy place of Vrindavan or Brajabhumi, where the Lord performed his rasa dance. Out of all topics people listen to, which is best for all living entities? Hearing about the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna is most pleasing to the hearer. Another heavy purport from Prabhupada, you could read yourself, 255. Among all worshipable objects, which is the chief? The chief worshipable object is the holy name of Radha and Krishna, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So, now at this point, the Lord reveals his true form to Ramananda Roy. Because you have a deep love for Krishna, one who has such deep love naturally sees things in a way, but take this from me to be certain. And here the famous verse, Maha Bhāgavata Deki Sarvata Jangama. A devotee advanced in the spiritual platform sees everything movable and inert as the Supreme Lord. For him, everything he sees here and there is but the manifestation of Lord Krishna. He certainly sees everything mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. Keep all these talks a secret. Please do not expose them anywhere and everywhere. Since my activities appear to be like that of a madman, people may take them lightly and laugh. Indeed, I am a madman and you are also a madman. Therefore, both of us are on the same platform. So, Krishna consciousness, these talks appear ludicrous to the common man, but not a devotee. The entire world is filled with material conceptions, and people are unable to understand these conversations due to the conditioning of mundane philosophy. The conversations between Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu contain the most confidential subject matters, touching the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. Although both talked at great length, they could not reach the limit of discussion. Actually, these conversations are like a great mine wherefrom one can extract all kinds of metal, copper, bell metal, silver, gold, base metals, and others. They are like a touchstone buried in one place. They work like miners, excavating all kinds of valuable metals, each one better than the other. Their questions and answers are exactly like that. So he ordered Ramananda Roy to come and reside with him in Jagannath Puri. The activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are like condensed milk, and the activities of Ramananda Roy are like large quantities of sugar candy. Their meaning is exactly like a mixture of condensed milk and sugar candy. When they talk of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, camphor is added. If one tastes these combined preparations, he is most fortunate. This wonderful preparation has to be taken orally. If one takes it, he becomes greedy to relish it even further. One hears these talks, he's enlightened to the transcendental knowledge of the mellows of Radha and Krishna's pastimes. Thus one can develop unalloyed love for their lotus feet. The author requests every reader to hear these talks with faith and without argument. By studying them in this way, one will be able to understand the confidential truth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This part of the Lord's pastimes is most confidential. One can derive benefit quickly only by faith. Otherwise, by arguing, one will always remain far away. He was accepted as everything. The lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Prabhu can attain this transcendental treasure. I offer 10 million obeisances unto the lotus feet of Sri Ramananda Roy, because from his mouth much spiritual information has been expanded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Sri Ramananda Roy ki jai. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Govinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Haribol.